All right. Hello again, Avengers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is Daily Vlog 2025, number 274. And it is officially spooky month. So get all your spookiness spookifying. I needed a drink because today we're going to talk about something highly speculative. I'm going to start out with that. This is highly speculative. I have no insider information. I am simply seeing things that worry me. It's going to be about Kirk Raw. So, and the final thing it's going to be about is business. So, some things have been going on with Critical Role that have been perplexing me. I think the first thing that really made me went, that's weird, was the community license for Daggerheart. And I've mentioned this quite a few different times. The community license for Daggerheart is so overly restrictive that it feels like it was written by someone who had no understanding of the TTRPG market just in general. There was a lot of kind of boilerplate language built into it, and then there were these really strange limitations. Things like you're not allowed to stream anything involving any of the campaign frames except the one that's in the SRD. Um, and other just really weird things. You're not allowed to make any content for any non-approved virtual tabletop. You know, all these limitations that I've literally never seen in an SRD before. And to be fair, the SRD is a relatively new thing for TTRPGs. Um, while homebrewing has been a thing for forever, the first SRD and community license that massively changed the market was with third edition D&D and their D20 license. And it massively changed how tabletop RPGs were written. It created an entire generation of new game designers because instead of having to do it as kind of like a hobby and hope, like Chris Perkins, you could get published in Dungeon Magazine or something and then eventually work your way into a job. You could actually start making money from your creations right there. It was really, really impressive. And once other companies realized just how great it was, not only for the market, but for their product as well, because it would allow more content for their TTRPG to be published without them having to spend anything on it. It really changed the world. But that's barely 25 years ago. And TTRPGs have existed for over 50 at this point. So, in the business world, something that's 25 years old is still somewhat new-ish. You know, fun fact, most of the techniques that marketing people use were created in like the 50s and 60s. And technically, they were based off of sales techniques that had been used for centuries, to be perfectly honest. But were really, really popular turn of the 20th century and end of the 19th century when door-to-door salesmen and things like that were really, really common. So the idea of something truly new in the world of business, it doesn't happen very often. Let's put it that way. And when it does, it changes the business landscape. So it's not like SRDs are this, you know, this thing that has this huge storied history or something. No, they're relatively new. And basically everything post OGL debacle basically changed the market. So when I saw the stuff that it seemed like Darrington Press was trying to do with their licensing agreement, which again, my very basic understanding from doing a little bit of study into copyright law and specifically into fair use, a lot of the stuff in that license never would hold up in court. The idea of, well, you're not allowed to show anything involving Age of Umbra. Nope, you can't do that. It's not possible for you to say, yeah, you can buy this, but you're not allowed to talk about it, you're not allowed to make videos about it, you're not allowed to critique it. Nothing. Do not ever mention this. This is ours. That's not something that would ever hold up in court, in my humble opinion. So I don't understand why someone would put it in there unless they literally just didn't understand how the TTRPG market works. Because, yeah, even let's say that there was some legal standing for them to be able to go, no, you're not allowed to play our game online using this campaign for frame. And they actually went to court. Again, there are so many examples of people using campaign settings that they don't quote unquote own that I think it would be extremely hard. And then the idea of transformative and all that other stuff, the idea that the campaign frame itself is so incredibly vague that the only way to use it is to transform it in some way, shape, or form. Like, it's... So, that was when I started thinking, well, that's kind of weird. But whatever. Critical Role has made mistakes before. It happens. It's not that big a deal. Then I started... I missed this a couple weeks ago, but I saw it referenced in something else, and I did a real research. Starting tomorrow, as in the premiere episode of Campaign 4, tomorrow, there will no longer be live chat on any of the Critical Role broadcasts. Now, they do clarify if they're actually doing something live, they will have live chat. Aside from those extremely rare situations, which again, I mentioned when they did that 90s Daggerheart game, that was the first time any of them had played live on Twitch in years. So effectively, if you watch Critical Role on Twitch, it's just not going to have live chat anymore. It's also not going to have it on YouTube. And in the original posting of that, they also mentioned, yeah, we're not doing rebroadcasts anymore. They later amended it, saying they're going to do one rebroadcast, basically for people that in different time zones, generally like the European market and further away, where if they were to watch it live, they'd have to get up at like 1 or 2 in the morning and then watch for 4 hours. Like, that's just not viable. And I thought, that's really weird. I don't understand why they would do that. Yeah, fun fact about at least the Twitch chat, I have no idea about YouTube. The Twitch chat, they actually have paid moderators. Like, they have professional moderators who would moderate the chat to make sure it wasn't getting spammed with, assholes that just came in to disrupt things. It was still chaotic. Because even with the massive decline in views that they've been getting on Twitch, if you're wondering what I mean by that, in their heyday, they were getting anywhere between 30 and 60,000 live viewers. Now, in general, if they break 10,000, that's a crazy popular episode. But at the same time, they're broadcasting it in 3 different places, and they were broadcasting it 3 times, because they would do the regular broadcast at 7 p.m. Pacific time, and then immediately after that, they do a rebroadcast, and then immediately after that one, they do another rebroadcast. So they rebroadcast it 3 times, and then they also were doing it on Beacon, and they were doing it on YouTube, and you could listen to a podcast version of it. You could watch it entirely on YouTube the next Monday. So the idea that people can consume it in so many different ways and at different times was obviously going to reduce their live viewers, because you don't have to watch it live. So I didn't really consider that a bad thing. It was just how their particular approach was changing. But they still had a professional mod team, and while it was still pretty crazy, because even if you only have 4 or 5,000 people watching, that's still 4 or 5,000 people watching. That's still a lot of people. The vast majority of Twitch streamers do not get anywhere near that. That's top 1% easily. So, I thought that was kind of odd. And then they do have a little kind of bumper on that announcement, mentioning, hey, if you watch it on Beacon, you get access to the Beacon only Discord, which does have live chat. And that's when all the conspiracy theories started going around. Oh, they're just doing this to force us to pay for it. I don't 100% believe that. But this is starting to make me think Critical Role is not run by Critical Role anymore. And let me clarify exactly what I mean by that. So I want to start off with a story because that's what I do. Back in 2015, when Critical Role was on the Geek and Sundry Twitch channel, and it was owned by Legendary Digital Entertainment, Legendary hired a person by the name of Rachel Romano to be their, I think it was head of digital marketing or something like that. What was it? VP of Marketing, Legendary Digital Networks. I had the pleasure of interacting with Rachel a few times. Not like we were talking all the time. No. I think I had a private message with her once through Twitter, and we interacted on Twitter every so often. She was one of my heroes. First of all, she worked in marketing, which at that point I was actually going to school for marketing. I think I actually tweeted her or something like that. Hey, I just got my degree in marketing, and she congratulated me. She's a super cool person. So in 2015, she was working for Legendary. In 2018, she stopped working for Legendary and she started working for Critical Role, which is right around the time I believe Critical Role started going independent from, or I believe it might have already, it had already left Geek and Sundry at that point, but that was when they were starting to really turn into a company as opposed to, we play D&D. And Rachel was their, again, I'll look for her official job title. Her official job title was SVP of Marketing. If you don't know what SVP means, it's Senior Vice President. So Senior Vice President for Marketing. In my very humble opinion, I think she was absolutely phenomenal at her job. I think she did a lot of things amazingly well. So why am I talking about her in the past tense? Well, she is no longer the Senior Vice President of Marketing. She left in February. And she made a post about it in a couple different places. Oh, here, I actually have the post right here because I have her LinkedIn her LinkedIn pulled up. So I'll just read what she said. After 7 wonderful years building Critical Role's massive global brand, I am now seeking my next big opportunity. While there, I built all of CR's marketing efforts from the ground up, including consumer products marketing, US, UK, EU, AU, CA, content, and series marketing, PR, paid media, digital and out of home, live events and ticketing, graphic design, and community. As well as participating on the leadership team as one of 3 non-founding cast executives. I bring over 15 plus years of driving brand growth and revenue through marketing, content, and community with a specialization in digital and subscription-based business models. One of my most cherished accomplishments at Critical Role was ideating, developing, and executing the crowdfunding campaign for The Legend of Vox Machina, now a Prime Video animated series with 3 seasons available right now, and a new series, Mighty Nine, on the way. In just 45 days, we raised over $11.3 million with our community, which led to the series deal. The campaign is still the #1 most funded film and video project on Kickstarter and within the top 10 most funded projects of all time. I'm fired up, energized, and primarily seeking a full-time executive level role related to marketing, branding, and/or strategy. Though I'm open, blah blah blah. And this is all stuff about what she's looking for for right now. So that was what she said. That post does not indicate any sort of ill will or anything like that. But here's the secret from the business world. When somebody leaves a company on good terms, for whatever reasons, and this does happen, there will be some times where people just go, you know what, I've been doing this for a long time. I want to try something different. I want to do something different. And so they will leave on good terms. A lot of times, somebody at the company, whether it's the person leaving or the company themselves, will make a post like that. And it's actually really, really useful for the person leaving, because it shows that the company that they were working for has no ill will, and they have no ill will with that company. Because here's another fun fact. If you want a fantastic way to ensure that you don't get the job, when you go in for your interview, bitch about your former employer. Because what that says to the interviewer is, okay, this person harbors resentment for their employer. They're going to feel that way about me when they leave this company, and they're going to badmouth me to other people. I don't want an employee like that. So the idea of making a post like that is generally a good thing. And it will definitely help get other job opportunities. At the same time, if an employee leaves on less than good terms, a post like that can also sometimes be made. Because again, the last thing that you want to have to deal with is a wrongful termination lawsuit or some sort of tort against, I can't remember what the actual business term is, interfering with someone being able to get another job. It's one of the reasons why there is this myth that if you call someone up about a former employee, they're not allowed to tell you anything bad about that employee. That's wrong. They're actually allowed to tell you whatever they want as long as they can prove it. Because if the call with you ends up with them not getting the job, they can sue you for tortious interference. And if you can't prove that everything that you said was 100% factual, and again, you have to be able to actually prove it. You can't say, well, this is why we fired them. No, you actually have to go, well, we fired them for this particular thing that they did on camera, or that we have 14 eyewitnesses of, or that was proven in the court of law. Otherwise, you're going to get a tortious interference lawsuit, and they're very, very expensive. So the basic rule of thumb for most employers is, if someone calls up checking previous employment, which is a normal part of the part of the hiring process. It's the reason why they want previous businesses that you worked for. They will literally call them up, depending on where you're working. Like if you're getting an entry-level retail position, they're probably not going to do that. Anything above entry level, they're going to check either a reference or a previous employer. And this is what they do. They call them up and they go, hi, my name is blah, blah. I work for this company. We have someone applying for a job named Doobly-Doo. Doobly-Doo says that they work for you. I'm just calling to confirm that. The two questions that you're kind of told you're allowed to answer, because there's no possible way that this can be construed as tortious interference, is, did they work there? Yes, you can actually prove that. Would you rehire them if they applied? That is an opinion-based thing, and you actually don't have to give a reason why, and so they can't actually sue you for that. So those are the two questions that most managers will always answer: is, did they work there? Will you rehire them? If you had no problem with the person, they just left for a billion different reasons. Maybe their schedule changed. Maybe the business itself changed. Maybe they moved. Lots of different reasons. You could say, yes, I would rehire them. And that's generally, to a hiring manager, it generally means, oh yeah, yeah, this is a good employee. I wish I still had them working for me. That's a great thing. If they say, no, I wouldn't rehire them, that is code for be careful with this one. You're going to regret it. And that's all they're quote unquote allowed to say. Now, like I said, if you've got documentation and stuff like that, you can go to town. It's 100% legal to be able to go, yeah, I wouldn't hire her again. We caught her stealing, she stole, $12,000 from us and we had to prosecute her. Did you guys not do a background check? Didn't you see the embezzlement charge that she just got out of jail for? That's why we wouldn't hire her again. Or him, or them, or whatever. So anyway, getting back to what happened with Rachel. Do I think that she was fired and everybody over there? No. If I had to guess, I think the Critical Role cast was probably very sad to see her go. Like I said, I've had interactions with her. She did a phenomenal job. In my humble opinion, I think she's probably still relatively close with them. I would guess. I haven't checked to see if she's still following them or if they're still following her on Twitter or whatever. So your guess is good as mine as far as that is concerned. But do I think when we look at what happened with the license and now with this thing where we're no longer going to allow chat, which again was a massive reason. The reason Critical Role is as big as it is now was because people could interact as they were watching it. It's why they continue to stream things on Twitch, despite the fact that all the stuff that they do is pre-recorded now, and they could just as easily just upload it to YouTube and be done with that. No, the live chat aspect of it is a core essential piece of what makes Critical Role Critical Role. And so now seeing that change, which seems to fly in the face of what makes Critical Role Critical Role, the stuff with the SRD and their community gaming license, and retroactively looking at Rachel leaving back in February, I'm starting to think somebody has been hired or has come into a position of authority in some way, shape, or form, or some sort of way that they can, in a position of influence. Whether or not it's whether or not they have any authority is really irrelevant. I think either someone or a group of someone has gotten into a position of influence and are slowly changing how Critical Role operates. And that includes this new Kickstarter that I kind of shat on yesterday. Them kickstarting a product that they 100% not only could pay for themselves, but could run their own pre-order and all this other stuff. Not having stretch goals or anything like that. Like, that is an extremely corporate thing to do. That is you're leaving money on the table. If you're not familiar with that phrase, it's a phrase in business. And basically what it alludes to is this idea of there is this big pile of money on the table that all you have to do is reach down and grab it, and then it can be yours. And if you don't do that simple process of reaching down and grab it, well, you're leaving money on the table. That money could be yours, and it's a very simple way to get it. One of the first times I ever heard that phrase used as it was being used to tell me I was doing something wrong, when I worked in retail. Here's another fun fact. They've done tons and tons and tons of studies. Retail has been studied by psychologists so much of retail is 100% psychological. Like the way that you lay out a store, tons of psychology. The height of the shelves in a store is based on psychology and biology. Fun fact, I worked at an office supply store literally just before I started working there. They lowered their shelf heights. I want to say it was like 4 or 6 inches. The reason being, they had done quite a few different studies that had shown the primary people that were buying office supplies in their stores were female as opposed to male. And females, on average, are going to be about 4 to 6 inches shorter than men. And so they literally lowered all their shelf heights so that it would be easier for women to be able to shop in there, because they saw that that was the primary people that were buying their big ticket items, or not big ticket items, but their high profit margin items, which was all their ink and paper and stuff like that. The flow of going through the store, all that stuff is studied immensely. One of the things that has been studied is the use of shopping baskets and shopping carts. And most businesses, if you get to the higher ups, and by higher ups I mean probably either the ASM or the SM, assistant store manager or store manager, depending on what kind of store you're looking at, and higher, they can tell you how much a shopping cart is worth. What I mean by that is not how much it costs to buy them, which, by the way, shopping carts are crazy expensive. They cost hundreds of dollars. I've never been able to understand why. They are literally just wire frames with really bad wheels, but they are ungodly expensive. So that's why shopping carts are always in such disrepair. It's because they're ungodly expensive to buy. So anyway, they know exactly how much a shopping cart is worth. And what I mean by that is, if someone is walking through your store with nothing, the average ticket of the amount of items that, or the average amount that they spend in the store, which we call average ticket, the numbers that I was told, if I remember correctly, if they're walking through the store with nothing in that particular store, the average ticket was somewhere around like 12 to 15 bucks. If they had a shopping basket, it jumped up to like 18 to 20. And then if they had a shopping cart, it jumped up between $30 and $50. So we would have a district manager come in and go, hey, why is there, $120 in the parking lot? And we would go, what do you mean $120 in the parking lot? Well, look, there are 4 carts there, and we know somebody that has a cart is going to spend $30 more than someone that just has a basket. You have plenty of baskets in here, so you literally, every single one of those carts is worth $30. That's leaving money on the table. All you have to do is bring those carts in so that people can use them, and you will make $30 instantly. That's not actually how it worked, but that's where leaving money on the table is. And a lot of this stuff feels like you're leaving money on the table. Now, if you've been watching this channel for a really long time, if we go back to the Geek and Sundry days, I believe I still have my videos up. I'm not 100% certain. There was a period of time where I believed that I had offended the Critical Role people because of how anti-alpha I was. We'll talk about that in a second. I might have privated a few of the videos where I just go to town, talk about what a bad idea alpha was. But one of the things that I talked about in one of those videos, that I can remember at least, was the idea of leaving money on the table. Alpha was legendary, saying, oh, we're leaving money on the table. We have all of these people that anytime Critical Role gives them the chance to spend money, they just spend money like crazy. Early critters were ravenous for financially supporting Critical Role. Like if Critical Role just said, hey, can we have $1 million so that we can put it into a giant swimming pool and go full on Scrooge McDuck, early critters would have found a way to raise $1 million. That's just how they were, how we were. So they said, well, how can we get more money out of these people? Well, let's make a premium streaming service, our own streaming service, and let's lock a bunch of content behind it so that they're forced to pay, because we don't actually have to do anything for this. The critters will just give us money. We just have to let them give us money. We're leaving money on the table. And if anyone doesn't know, the premium streaming service that they created was a service called Alpha. Now, this is not me bashing on any of the Alpha specific programming. A lot of it was very, very good. Alpha in and of itself was a monumentally stupid idea. And it's the reason that Geek and Sundry shuttered for almost a decade. Alpha was pure corporate greed. And they lied through their teeth about it. They said, yeah, the channel just doesn't make enough money. in order for the Twitch channel to keep surviving, we have to make alpha. It was a bold-faced lie. They were making shit tons of money. I actually had some contacts at work for Critical Role that I was able to kind of crunch some numbers with. They were making hand over fist. They were making shit tons of money. However, none of that money was actually going to the Twitch channel. It was all going to Legendary, and then Legendary was giving them this tiny little shoestring budget, and pretending that's all the money that we have. I don't know what to do. There's no money. They really thought that they were going to be able to create, the next like Twitch, or I guess at that point Rooster Teeth was doing relatively, or people thought they were doing relatively well with their own kind of proprietary website that people watch stuff on. They weren't, but people thought that they were, because they were really, really good at hiding the fact that they were just pissing money away. And so Alpha was one of the biggest reasons why Geek and Sundry and Legendary Digital Networks completely collapsed, to the point where the only thing that technically survived was Nerdist, and that was mostly as like a news website. But Critical Role went defunct for a long time. They just barely came back, and it's still in kind of a touchy place. Amy Poehler's Smart Girls vanished off the face of the planet. And again, most of Nerdist vanished away as well. They basically rebranded Geek and Sundry, Smart Girls, and Nerdist as just Nerdist to try and make it look that Nerdist wasn't completely gone. But all Nerdist turned into was a website. They weren't streaming anymore. They weren't really creating YouTube videos or anything like that. So, yeah, to me, a lot of the things that I'm seeing right now from Critical Role reek of you're leaving money on the table. This really poorly created Kickstarter with overpriced items and no stretch goals, to me feels like you're leaving money on the table. If all you do is pre-order, you're going to lose money that you could have made. Use Kickstarter. People get excited about Kickstarter. You guys raised $11 million through Kickstarter. You should really do this as a Kickstarter and not just put it out, because you're leaving money on the table. You can't let just anybody use this brand new system you've created. This is an amazing system, and it's going to make you guys so much money. So what we have to do is this gaming license, we have to make sure that only the people that we want to be using it are going to be able to use it. We want to have absolute control, because we don't want what happened to Dungeons and Dragons to happen to us. No, we want to have absolute control. And the fact that Rachel left after 7 years is starting to make more sense. Now, again, this is entirely speculation. I have not spoken with Rachel since her leaving. I didn't realize she left until like April or June. I just went, hey, I haven't heard anything from Rachel recently. I looked her up and I'm like, oh my God, she's not there anymore. That's sad. I hope she's doing awesome stuff other places, because she's an awesome person. But I'm starting to feel like things are happening behind the scenes. And now this is not me saying Critical Role is corrupt. No, I genuinely believe the Critical Role cast is the same people that we've always known. We've known of these people for over a decade now. Travis is still the CEO. Marisha is still, I can't remember what she is. I think she was creative director or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, the people are still the people that we know, but they are not running this very profitable business on their own. Again, all of them are still full-time voice actors. And as I mentioned when I was talking about charities and stuff like that, it takes a lot of work to run a business. If Travis was the sole CEO that was actually running absolutely everything for Critical Role, I do not think he could continue voice acting, because most CEOs work anywhere from 60 to 80 hours a week. This myth of, oh, they just go golfing is not true. CEOs tend to stay with companies longer than most employees. The average lifespan of an employee at any business is anywhere between 3 to 5 years. The average lifespan span of a CEO at a company is somewhere between 7 to 14 years. So CEOs are technically more invested in the company, and the average CEO before becoming CEO generally tends to spend 60 to 80 hours a week working in that industry for 10 to 20 years before they get a CEO position. A lot of them don't have families, or don't get families until much, much later in life, when they are effectively rich enough to be able to afford someone that wants more than just companionship, let's say. Being a CEO is an extremely difficult job. Now, Critical Role is not a Fortune 500 company. It is not a massive, massive company. But the idea that Travis can remain a full-time voice actor while also being a full-time CEO of a company, of an international company, no matter how small it is, doesn't hold water. So I will guarantee there are more people than just Travis that are making decisions for the company, which is as it should be. I've said this many, many times before. One of the things that pisses me off more than anything else is a creative running a business and then getting really, really upset when they go, running a business is hard. It's not fair. I just want to do creative things. Congratulations. Then go hire a manager, because that's what we get paid to do. And those of us that are good at it, there's a reason that managers cost money. It's because it's a hard job. So this is not me saying, oh, they're cheating or anything. No, I 100% think that they should be hiring more people to do the more business-oriented stuff. Because as much as everyone claims that Travis is the most business-minded of any of them, I don't believe he has any sort of business degree, nor do I believe he has any experience running his own business, aside from being an actor, which, fun fact, is kind of running your own business. You have to pay your own taxes and all that other fun stuff. You have to market yourself. So there are things, but there's a very, very large difference between, being your own boss and running an international business. So my theory right now is someone relatively recently, and in the business world, recently is anywhere between 6 months to a year. So in the past year-ish, I believe someone or multiple someones have gotten into positions of influence and are making decisions based on how much money they can make rather than what is in the best interest of the company. And here's another fun fact. A lot of people think the idea of a for-profit business, the primary purpose of a business is to make money, which means that if your justification for anything is this will make us more money, means that you are thinking about the business first. That is a lie. There are a lot of things that will make you more money that are actually harmful to the business. And there's a phrase that's been thrown around quite a lot recently. But you can actually be brought up on charges of what's called breach of fiduciary duty. If you make decisions for the business from like a personal standpoint that are actually damaging to the business, if you are this as a CEO, like let's say you're a CEO and you decide that you're the CEO of Tyson Food, but you're a vegan, so you go, we are going to completely cancel all of our real meat. We're going to invest everything in fake meat. And Tyson's going to be entirely for fake meat. Well, that would completely destroy the company. And that 100% would be kind of a breach of fiduciary duty, because they're letting their own personal feelings dictate what the business does, and it causes the business to lose money. So the idea of doing something exclusively for the purpose of this will make us more money doesn't always mean that you're not going to be breaching your fiduciary duty, because just because it makes you more money now doesn't mean it's going to be good for the brand. Like, good example, if Critical Role put out a gacha game that used loot boxes and microtransactions, they would make a shit ton of money. Just absolute hand over fist. Free to play games make shit tons of money. However, it would destroy Critical Role completely. There would be nothing left of the company. It would make a shit ton of money and then would die because the trust and the customer base would go. And fun fact about free to play games is they eventually do die. You will eventually reach a kind of terminal velocity for it where you can't put out enough new content to keep the whales invested enough to be able to keep running every thing. So I kind of believe that somebody or somebodies in the inner workings of Critical Role has started influencing what they're doing and either bringing in outside contractors that they think are going to make them more money or run the business more business-like or something like that, and are actually hurting the company. Again, the whole thing with their community gaming license hurt Critical Role. Did it destroy them and make them? No, they're still massively popular. But it did make them look bad. It was a bit of a black eye for them. This Kickstarter is making them look bad. They've raised over. They've met their goal, or they've met their goal. It took them less than 24 hours to do it. So it's not that they weren't able to raise the money, but if you look on Reddit, if you look online and see the kind of conversation about it, people are going, $25 is way too expensive for this. And why are they using Kickstarter? Why are there no stretch goals? Why is there nothing? Like this doesn't make sense. The people that are making these decisions are hurting the brand. Does that mean that they're going to tank the company? Absolutely not. This is not me saying Critical Role is over. No, they're doing exceptionally well. Apparently, they're currently hiring for, what was it, a licensing something? What was it? Licensing coordinator. There's currently a job application open for Critical Role that I found on LinkedIn for a licensing coordinator. They put it up 2 days ago. Over 100 applicants have applied. And it says specifically on here, they are actively reviewing applicants. So if you live in the greater Los Angeles area and you would like to work as a licensing coordinator for Critical Role, you might want to think about applying for that job. So I 100% do not think that, Critical Role has sold their soul. No, I believe the original cast still is running the company the way that they think they should be. However, I think they have people on staff that do not understand what Critical Role is, and they do not understand kind of the live play market and the TTRPG market that Critical Role is intrinsically entwined with. And I believe they're making decisions based on, well, if this was a Fortune 500 company or if this was a C-suite business, then this is what we would do and this is how we would treat people. And that's not how Critical Role has ever worked. And again, as businesses get bigger, you have to become more corporate. The fact that they no longer interact with fans on a one-on-one basis, with a few very rare exceptions, is kind of necessary. They have hundreds of thousands of fans. They can't. When there was only, a couple thousand people watching and they were the only people that knew Critical Role existed, yeah, they could interact with every one of us. Again, I had a one-on-one conversation with Matt Mercer about a prank I wanted to pull on Felicia Day. I had a standing invitation to come by the set and watch a session live. Like, they told me flat out, hey, if you can come out here, you are more than welcome to stop by the set, watch the show live. By the way, I'm relatively certain that invitation has been rescinded. I remember fans randomly just walking to the studio because they didn't hide. Geek and Sundry didn't hide where their Twitch studio was. And random fans just walking on, well, not on set, but on, into the studio. That's not something they can do. To be perfectly honest, they shouldn't have been doing it then, but they did because they were small and inexperienced and didn't realize what a scary world that we lived in. They were still awash with all of the praise and admiration that they were getting. So yes, the company's supposed to change, but the changes that are happening, I do not believe are in Critical Role's best interest. And I think if they continue, whoever is making these decisions, if they are allowed to stay in their position of influence without learning from their mistakes, because again, this is not me saying whoever's making this decision should be fired. No, they need to learn the market. They need to learn what Critical Role actually is. Because it, again, my opinion, my inference based on random things that I'm seeing that may have no connection whatsoever. I firmly believe that things are changing at Critical Role for the worse. And the people that are spearheading it either need to realize what they're doing is hurting Critical Role and is going to end eventually with the company's sale or closure, or they need to leave Critical Role and give it back to someone that actually understands the market, understands Critical Role specifically. Again, is my theory. I may be 100% wrong about this. This is again just speculation based on my own experiences in business. I have seen things like this happen, and not even in just like little small mom and pop businesses. The large office supply store chain that I worked for, I literally watched this happen in real time when they hired a CEO that did not understand the business, did not understand, to be blunt, he didn't understand retail. And he massively changed how everything worked and tanked the company so hard that they actually got purchased by their biggest competitor because the market share of the company that I worked for tanked after this guy took office. Not took office, got the position of CEO. He was exceptionally bad at his job because he had no idea how an office supply chain worked. And he just thought it was like any other like big box retailer, which it wasn't big box, it was small box. And office supplies work very, very differently than, you know, a grocery store or something like that. So, yeah, it's just my 2 cents. Interested to hear from you guys. Have you guys noticed the same things I have where it's like, hey, something weird is happening with Critical Role? Do you think I'm reading into things that aren't there? Again, I have multiple diagnosed anxiety disorders that I can't treat because the treatments will kill me. My brain loves convincing me that the world is ending. So there's a very good chance that I'm reading into things that aren't there. Rachel might have left entirely on good notes. And again, I'm not saying that she was fired. My theory, which again is just a theory, I've never spoken with her, no, I've never spoken with her, I've never spoken with anyone at Critical Role about this, but my theory is she saw things shifting and she was starting either to be asked to do things that she didn't like doing, not like illegal or anything, just things as like, this isn't how I do my job, I don't like doing it this way. Or she saw, you know, the writing on the wall and went, you know, this business is changing in a way that I don't want to change with it, is my theory. Again, it could be exactly what she said in her post. She just wanted to try something new. That's 100% a real thing. I find it slightly worrying that she quit without a new job lined up, because generally, if you're leaving on good terms, you try and line up your next job before you leave, especially if you're leaving on good terms with your current boss. Like going, hey, generally what will happen is like, hey, I'm really not, you know, feeling it right now. I'm thinking about leaving to try something new. Let's talk about finding me a replacement or something like that. And then not only do they give you time to kind of sort in your replacement, they also give you time to find a new job. Does that happen often? No, but it does happen. So the fact that my understanding is I believe she is still not gainfully employed. I might be wrong on that. Let me look. According to her LinkedIn, yeah, the last job experience that she shows on there was Who was that? I don't know what fractional. It also says fractional CMO, so I don't know what that means. So maybe she does have employment, and I'm just reading things in here. Anyway, like I said, I'm interested to hear from you guys. Do you think I'm reading into something that's not there, or do you guys too see something's happening and I'm not particularly fond of it? Let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, again, that's all for me today, and I will see you guys next time. All right, bye bye.